I'll concede your point just for brevity, but
What? Brevity? We don't do that around here. It's probably
No.
citrus, or what is a Capital One Bowl? It used to be Citrus Bowl, right?
oh my
Capital
God,
One.
dude, where have you been?
I just like the real name.
It hasn't been the Citrus Bowl since like, what, 2002?
What was your highlight side dish from Thanksgiving?
Oh gosh, Scotch.
This is the Buck Around, the podcast devoted to all things Wisconsin Badger football from a fan perspective. Featuring your hosts, Richard Branch and Maxwell Brusky.
And hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Buck Around. Welcome back to episode 318 of the Buck Around. I am one half of said Buck Around, Richard Branch, and I am joined by my energetic colleague, Maxwell Brusky. Max, how are you?
Is it caffeinated? I don't know.
Caffeinated could be it. You know what it is?
I think it is caffeinated.
So we have a bit of a conflict here, right? Or a decision to make, as we have already recorded and ready to go a delightful interview with our friend Chris Eisman from NorthJersey.com, who previewed Rutgers with me the other day. And you and I were deciding whether or not to do a whole standalone Badger show or integrate that into, this episode with things we want to talk about, depending on how long we went. And in order to do that, we'd almost have to record two introductions. But you know what? I have no energy to record two different introductions. Like, it's very weird.
I don't think that'll be necessary. I think, you have, inside baseball here, you have this agenda titled "There's so much to talk about." It's July. So I think we could do a little bit on the current state of affairs, which, for them too, like, this is like the only downtime there is in the whole playing or non-portion playing of the season, right? Like the month of July.
Pretty much every college football reporter is either on vacation or taking care of some, off-field thing or yes. I mean, I spoke to Chris sitting in his kitchen, enjoying like 3 weeks of vacation. So good for them. I mean, they're all doing that. I noticed it is definitely the quietest. I can't speak.
Quietest
of quietest times, but nonetheless, we persevere.
We got a couple things, right?
Yeah. Should we get into this? Let's talk
I think
Badgers.
we should. Yeah.
Obviously, we haven't done this for a couple weeks, so I think the biggest news in the last 2 weeks is the Badgers picked up Hardy Watts, the offensive line recruit, who is now the highest rated recruit in their recruiting class. Beat out finalists Michigan and Clemson. I think it was notable. He went from being I think he was a Michigan lean, according to all the experts, to then a Wisconsin lean after his Michigan visit, which is what I thought was the most interesting. And do you think this is a big deal?
I feel like it is.
Do you?
Yeah, but I feel like I'm being foolish or a little too homery or something like that for thinking it is. But I feel like it is. I don't know how much it says about current Michigan or post Harbaugh Michigan or more so than anything else.
I mean, they're still recruiting at a pretty good clip. I mean,
they are
flipped a few guys, and
yeah, they are. But I don't know if they would pull. Like, does it suggest that there's maybe some bloom off the rose, as it were, or whatever? I don't know.
Is that where your consternation comes from?
No, because I think beating out anytime you're going to beat Michigan or Clemson for a recruit, when it's a real battle, an actual one, with a committable offer and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's significant just by itself. But I guess that's my reservation is Michigan still Michigan?
Well, I mean, I think one part of it, maybe your pause, your consternation is you're looking at this through Logan Brown colored glasses. You're like, is it really that big a victory?
I didn't think I was, but maybe that's.
It's a very.
I don't know if it's looking at it through those glasses necessarily, but maybe with the apprehension built up from having gone through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily that the bloom is off the Michigan rose. I mean, Michigan, I think, is a top 11th, not top 10. They're 11th right now in the composite. So just a smidge off top 10. Clemson is top 15. So I mean, they're both ahead of Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin has dropped significantly. A bunch of teams got a bunch of commits. So
I shouldn't say this, but I feel like Michigan's gonna be like a Gene Chizik kind of thing, or like Auburn had studs up and down, and then all of a sudden, whatever happens to him, they went downhill, and then he's gone like within 2 years.
yeah, could be.
I don't know. I kind of feel like that, and I don't know I just don't know how much of that's Harbaugh.
Well, I mean, I think you are looking at this through Sharon Moore crying on TV like a maniac, colored glasses, because that I don't know, that one's gonna forever stick with me as like, okay, that was unique. Like he had a full on ugly cry on TV, the spit flying. I mean, I'm never gonna forget that one where he
sure did. Yeah,
I mean, that
he sure
one
did. It was Cristiano Ronaldo level.
it was very strange. I guess for me, I mean, I think funny enough, I do look at it through Logan Brown colored glasses, but in a different way. Like, I think the Logan Brown win was significant, even though he was a bust. And it's pretty obvious they knew pretty quickly he was a bust once he was on campus, because I don't think I think it's out there now that, he got in fights in practice, and they cut bait there pretty quick. If that guy, I think, was going to have an upside, they would have hung around and put up with a lot more. I mean, Corey Clement got in a fight in an elevator, lied about it, and then we had security cam footage of it, and they put up with it and brought him back.
In the NFL for a couple of years.
That's my point. Like they knew there's different sets of rules to a certain degree for players if they can produce. And I think with Logan Brown, they knew pretty quick that wasn't going to happen. That being said, I think the significance of him was always they beat Michigan. They beat, I forget who else was in it at the end, for a 5-star guy, misevaluated or not. And it's kind of, because of that, I look at it the same way, which is, this is beating Michigan. This is beating Clemson. You can say, I think Clemson is the more interesting one, that you're kind of wondering, like, this feels like the precipice year, not to go off on a tangent, but that's more the team that I'm curious about. I feel like Michigan can have a retool year because like 20 guys just went to the NFL.
I'll tell you what, though. I mean, maybe, the Auburn thing, maybe, because I was thinking like Oregon kind of did the same thing with Helfrich, and in the same way.
Yeah.
Hasn't it?
Kind of feels like it could be.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a thing where Dabo will get it back. I don't know, and how much of that has to do with the NIL stuff, which he's voiced his pretty clear displeasure about.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But that's maybe the better example where maybe the bloom is off the rose in those programs. I don't know. That's the only thing that's keeping me from getting excited, because I think whenever you can beat a Michigan and a Clemson for a top 100 prospect.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. I mean, and I think that's noteworthy. That's a good thing. And it hasn't happened that much. And if it becomes a thing where it goes beyond offensive linemen and gets into defensive line or wide receivers or running backs or cornerbacks, God forbid, then I think you've really got something. But, for right now, they've done it before with offensive linemen. So maybe that's also part of my apprehension.
That was actually
that's where you're going.
Yeah. Like I put it like, this is very nice. Again, I'm not going to be the Prince of Darkness on this. I'll be the Petty King of Darkness. How about that? Oh, don't spit your coffee. You like that one, huh? Oh, good.
Petty King is more like maybe a Duke. I don't know.
Yeah, no, but I wanted something that, it has some, let's not make it something it's not. I mean, I don't know that a Petty King is definitely like, I think about where I'm at.
It's more aristocracy than royalty.
It's more like
maybe where you're
glorified chieftain of darkness.
Yeah, okay. All right.
like I came in and ransacked your castle and I'm living in it, but like
legal history show.
Like, I don't know, like the candles were out of whale oil. I don't know what they lit those things with. And like, we don't know how to refill them. So the place is starting to get dark and dingy, but I'm sitting on that throne in the darkness, but not the feeling of darkness, if you will.
Yes.
So, so as Petty King of Darkness, I would say it would be nice if they could hit on one of these things at another position. Like, we've talked about it in the past where they started to do it at edge rusher, where it became a place where they could, take a swing at edge rusher.
Sure. And they did it with running backs too. I mean, it was Melvin Gordon and John Clay were local, obviously, but even still, I mean, those guys were pretty high prospects.
So
at a ball carrying position.
Yeah. So I mean, it's we'll see, but I guess I think it's still a win is a win. But yes, it would be nice to see a win like this at another position. But my question to you, maybe in a different way, is how are you feeling about offensive line recruiting? Because I think they're done. They've got 5 in this class. They took 5 in the last one. So that's going to be 10 bodies over 2 years, obviously getting
Yeah.
numbers back.
I-
Plus, you
I
have the
like-
bridge transfer guys in there.
Yeah.
How do you
I
feel
think,
about
I
it?
think they've just retooled it altogether. And they've gone from having people that they inherited to having their guys.
Do you?
Yeah, well, you think going forward, I mean, after this year, you're gonna have guys leave for the NFL,
Mhm.
probably. Okay. And then the churn has started. I mean, who's gonna be on the team after in 2026 that would have been a leftover from the old regime
Oh, a
on the offensive
lineman?
line? Yeah, Joe Brunner.
Brunner was going to be the one I was going to
I
say.
mean, he's the only one I can think of.
The kid from Arizona, who I can't think of right now, redshirt freshman. I mean, I can get the roster up, but to your point,
Yeah.
it's going to be it's going to be a retooled look. I think Kevin Haywood's going to be
totally
in the mix.
And if you've taken 5 last year, plus a couple of transfers, whether they play, I know how much they play or not, fine. And now another 5. I mean, that's a total turnover.
Do you think 5 a year is going to be the new normal? Because I kind of do.
Oh.
Because
Do
I
you
think
really?
you're going to lose. Well, I think you're not going to have many more like Micah Capoys. I think those guys are going to leave. They're not going to wait 4 years to play. Like if they're buried and they're kind of in that middling tier, there's a pretty high probability that they're going to get pulled somewhere. But for somebody who really needs a body.
So you're saying that it's a portal issue.
It's a portal.
And
You just have attrition.
the ease of saying I can go elsewhere.
I mean, it's the ease of saying, do I want to hang around with like if you were Micah Capoy now, I would think by the time you're like a redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior, that you're kind of behind a body or two, and Boston College comes calling, or pick your other sort of Wake Forest really needs a guard.
Sure.
There's a good chance you're going to start at one of those places.
And you don't even have to look at something like the MAC or anything else. Yeah, you can do that at maybe not a top tier program, but Power 4.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there is no.
Yeah.
We've said this before. I feel like the biggest beneficiaries of the portal have been replacement level defensive and offensive linemen. I mean, we said it about defensive linemen, but I think you can extend it to
for sure
the offensive side. So my assumption,
I think so too. Yeah, now that you say that, yeah,
you bring in 5 of them. I would think in a given year, 2 of them don't finish with the school.
Sure.
Right?
Well, and I think it's so important. It's such an important position. I mean, it all and for Wisconsin it hurts too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, to the last point, it's one where they can get high level guys.
I'll be curious. I'm amazed by the way that still kind of goes, for lack of a better term. Like, I mean, I guess they have, they're still putting a guy in the NFL, in the first 2 days, at least one a year, or 3/4 of a guy, if however you want to average it, a year. So I guess you have that pull. But I'm surprised that is as resonant as it is. It seems to be with recruits still, just because it's not what it was, but it still seems to pull. But to get back to the question I asked you, the one thing I would say that I think maybe they're doing, I hate to say better, because I don't think that the last staff was just oblivious to this. I think they just had some bad luck.
Right.
I do feel the guys are better matched position-wise. Like, I don't feel like... I remember with Chris and even the good run they had, you just said, boy, they're taking a lot of tackles, right? And it didn't matter until it did. And then you felt like they were real thin on the interior. And these guys, I mean, you feel like you have some outside, you have a couple inside bodies. It feels a little more like there's a track for guys to progress on. So I'll take it. But I'll be curious to see, because I think, you're going to see a few more guys in the fall, but this class isn't too far from being done, which is weird. And it's just, did they hold it and solidify it and keep it?
Well, it's really the running back, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's gonna, and I think that most people agree that if they don't get Lewis, they're not taking anybody else.
Well, like we said, I think it's, we were talking about it last week. My suspicion is if they bring in, when they have the young guys over the summer and into the fall, if they don't think they have too viability, we might see them make an offer, but more likely it's portal, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where we're going to see a body there. But I'm with you. I mean, they want to get a corner, right? They're waiting on that. They're talking about they're probably flipping the kid from SMU, not MSU. that Gentry guy, who's another 6-footer. But yeah, other than that, I mean, you're going to get to what, 25, and then you'll have some portals out, and you figure it out from there. But I guess my take is it seems the same. Like, I feel like it doesn't feel any different to me than it did before, which isn't a bad thing. They seem like they have a plan. It seems clear to me, and it always comes back to, is it a good thing that I feel like I know the plan? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Like, I feel like it's a very straightforward, focused thing.
It would take winning for high-level recruits at other positions for you to change your mind.
Well,
right?
it would be like,
right?
Can they keep hitting the blue chip ratio? Yeah. Can they keep hitting consistent 4-star kids? Let's see where let's see where the class ends up, and then let's see how it translates. Like, let's see if it actually works. Like, they can deploy the talent they have in a way that makes sense. Like, they understand the talent they need and how to use it. Like, that's the next step, because it seems like they have a vision of what they want. I can't really have a judgment on the classes until I can see that they can execute with it, right?
Right.
So that's the next part. Can we talk about the other big news of the week? I mean, this was big news, major.
It made it on the Buck Around agenda.
It did. Squat Fest 2024.
When we were talking, we were doing planning, I mean, I just kind of threw it out there, and I didn't really, I'll be honest, I didn't really follow up on anything with it. So
there isn't much to follow. I mean, and I don't mean it in a bad way. It's funny. Like,
yeah, I don't mean that in a bad way either, but
last year, I think everybody paid more attention to it just because it was new.
Sure.
You're like, what is this thing? And then they had Squat Fest, and they invited all this media there, and you're like, well, okay, Braylon Allen wore like a Darth Vader mask or something.
I think it was more. I think it was
like
much
a
creepier
Punisher or something. I don't know what it was.
It was more Lucha Libre, I thought.
I don't know even. I just remember it was this dark mask. That's all I remember. And then I guess my summation of it was, okay, all right, go for it. I don't know what I needed. I don't know why I needed to be a part of this, other than, well, actually, I have a theory. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
I hope Colton. So Colton over at Badger Extra had an article about Squat Fest where he talked to Brady Collins, and I forget the exact. I should have written it down. I copied a whole bunch of the article here. Colton, I hope you don't mind, but the article's 2 weeks old by now. I don't think you really care. But yeah, go subscribe to Badger Extra. There you go. Here's an example of the work. But I thought this part was funny because the headline was something like, Collins and team excited for Squad Fest, ready, you don't care what critics think, or something like that.
Don't care what critics think. Huh? Yeah, you got to throw that in there.
Like, what? Right. So, yeah, I have a little excerpt here. And I'm going to even trim down a bit from what I copied onto our agenda, just for time, Max. What is it they used to say about movies on TV? Edited for time and content.
Time and content.
Yes. So here's the quote. It begins, "This was Wisconsin's second taste of Squat Fest under Collins. Knowing from last year the challenge awaiting them helped players," senior wide receiver Bryson Green said. They also know what may happen again in the coming days. Wisconsin's proud to show off Squat Fest on social media, but that did lead to some criticism from outsiders who called into question the hype around it. Collins sees and hears the comments and had a somewhat surprising response. "I love it. I feed off of it," he said. "I genuinely don't care what anybody outside this room says about my guys. I mean that because my staff, this coaching staff, the kids in that locker room, that's why they do what we do. From the outside, you don't understand it, and you never will unless you're totally ingrained in it every single day. I learned a long time ago that if you don't have critics in life, you're not doing something right. You need me on that wall. You want me on that wall." I don't need to read the rest of it.
You don't. But I will say this: one of the reasons that kind of got me on the Squat Fest thing was that I listened to a Collins interview on another podcast.
Okay,
and yeah, I mean, you did a pretty good job. There's some inflections in his voice, like including a little bit of a lisp that that's in there, and there's something about him that's not. It's not quite Jack Nicholson it's more like it's closer to Sean Astin in freaking 41st Dates.
I've never seen that, Max.
You've never seen that movie?
No.
Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore?
The first name you mentioned is the exact reason why I didn't see it. Adam Sandler.
Bro.
Can I?
Oh, come
not
on.
to get us off on a tangent.
I don't
there
get
is-
disappointed that often in our partnership, but you've really let me.
Let me just tell you something. There is one thing that, like, there are very few things that I'm like, when I was 20 years old and I was like, I'm taking a very unpopular stand on something and time has only proven me right.
Mhm.
And one of those is Adam Sandler is horrifically unfunny. He has spent 30 years talking like a baby and being a jerk. Like, go watch, like, I invite you, go watch Click, where he's got the remote, and tell me.
My kids were just talking about that movie this week because it showed up on Hulu.
He's horrible. Like, every character he plays is horrible.
I remember that one, and it's 50 first dates, not 40. The thing that I like about that movie the most, though, is that he has a character arc where he starts off as a jerk and finishes up as not one. Like, there is a character arc. So
no,
to
there's
your
not.
to your point, I get what you're saying 100%.
Also, what's the one where he plays golf? Is that Happy Gilmore? He's a jerk.
That is Happy Gilmore, yes.
He's a lunatic. There's nothing nice about him, and he's not funny on top of it. That's a different story.
Except for a couple lines.
Go. I had to watch that recently.
Price is Wrong.
Not funny. Like, it's not, man. Like, it's I know I'm gonna get hate mail for this, but I don't care. Like, I stand by it. I don't know who's less funny than Adam Sandler that has been really. I hear he's a very nice person. That's great. And
I've heard that as well.
The Uncut Gems thing I hear is very good. But you know what? I mean, once he hit the Little Nicky and Zohan phase, you're like, this guy doesn't do anything else. But just like
once it got to the Little Nicky and Zohan phase, it is definitely in the money grab world. So yeah,
he wasn't in the money grab world. He had no other ideas because he was playing the same characters because they're all like,
that's what a money grab is.
Yeah, he has no other idea. I mean, he made that one on Netflix. All right. So, anyways,
wow, this is an awesome tangent. I think we're going to get a lot of interaction on it.
No, I don't want it. But
no, it might be down the road a little bit.
Yeah.
But my point is, if you watch that movie, and anybody who did, like, it's more Sean Astin's character than that's what Brady Collins reminds me.
Okay, that's right. What we were talking.
And the reason why I brought it up is because go listen to the interview. It is, the guy is just something. I mean, he is. What did it say in here? What did he say? The energetic leader, or what did he say?
He said, I don't know.
What were the exact words? Yeah, lead energy injector.
That's right.
No doubt about that. And I just think it's funny.
Okay.
In a good way.
All right. Well,
it's all good vibes. It's all good vibes.
My theory,
as long as nobody's walking around in that same mask that Braylon Allen had last year.
Yeah, I'm
sure there were.
I don't really have a problem with it. They can wear whatever mask they want.
Oh,
they can
God,
do
I don't
whatever
have
they
a
want.
problem with it at all. No,
I have a theory. I don't think anybody was really that. I think this is all part of you need to build a mentality of us against. It's kind of like almost like it's hazing, but from the outside. Like, use the outside to haze you. This is creating controversy and conflict when there is none.
The best ever at doing that, Mark D'Antonio.
I could see that.
In the high point of Michigan State, it's always about, we're the little brother.
Yeah.
We just came off a Rose Bowl, but everybody hates us.
I could see that.
Oh yeah, I think he was the best at that.
But
class warfare.
I just thought that was so funny because especially like this year, everybody kind of reacted. People who paid attention reacted last year because it was new and novel. This year, I felt like it came and went, and I didn't care. Like, I don't care who was squatting. Like, what I mean by it is, like, good, go do it. I don't care what people are squatting. It doesn't mean anything. Like, I've seen enough of that in my life.
I think we can move off the topic, but I want to have the last word because what is it? Gideon Atuka had like 550 or something like that. Something absurd.
I'm blinking in silence.
There you go.
Just me blinking into the Zoom camera.
That's the only thing I saw, and it probably just came from a notification on Twitter. So.
If you really want to know, he broke 500. Will Pauling broke 500, and I think Tretch was at 495. Now you made me angry because I know those things they're like little earworms in my brain that I can't get rid of.
Perfect.
I think Will Pauling did 535.
My plan had come together.
Yeah. Look at you. Thanks, Mr. Burns. But can we get into my other contract? You know what? This is going to be the week that really makes people hate. But you know what? It's July. We're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, if we're moving on to the next topic on the agenda,
I
am 100% with you. I could not care less.
All right. So let me just preface this. You're all allowed to enjoy things. Everyone's allowed to enjoy whatever you want. If you find something and you're not hurting anybody else and you enjoy it, you're allowed to do it. Like you're 100%.
Word has come down from the prince.
Well, this is by the way, this is Prince level. This is not petty king. Like everybody's allowed to enjoy whatever they want. Like I'm not here to tell you what's cool or what's not, because believe me, I do plenty of uncool things, says the guy who has a podcast and also is very involved in model railroading and Dungeons and Dragons. So that's the triumvirate of cool. Yeah, that's the triumvirate of cool. But so let me just say, if you enjoy it, go for it. Don't worry about it. Like, don't let people be, if you like Nickelback, listen to Nickelback. I don't care. It doesn't hurt me, right?
Your taste sucks, but yeah, go ahead.
Go for it. Like, if it, who cares? Bad, like Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Da. That song came back. Remember? The Eiffels. What were they called? Eiffel, whatever. Like, there was a remix of it. I'm like, go for it.
No, I forgot, but
somebody did a remake of it. I'm like, good, enjoy it. Like, I don't care. Go for it. Have a great time. All that being said, you're allowed to be excited that the new, College Football 25 is coming out. You're totally go for it. Like, I get it. You want to buy it.
Just disregard everything before the but.
No. Don't go for it. You can be excited. Like we're gonna buy it in my house. My son is really excited to play it. So we're going to get it.
And I think mine is too.
We're going to play it, blah, 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 blah. He's going to, I don't know if he's going to kick my behind. I don't know yet.
I'm never going to play it with my son.
I'll play it.
I can't do that stuff.
You're talking to a guy who played that game from the first version when you could only play, actually, Bill Walsh on the Sega Genesis.
Oh, yeah.
I am old
enough.
enough.
Sure.
That was the first iteration of Electronic Arts college football. And they didn't even have licenses. So be happy.
Closest I got to any sports video game ever is like RBI baseball. That's how far I go back with that. And I have no interest in it.
But what I want to say is the thing that's making me insane, sports writers do not need to carry water for this game. They have to stop posting about it. They have to stop hyping it. Like, I went to the EA brought me into a symposium and like, boy, this game was awesome. And I got to see this and I got to play a demo and wow. I mean, there's a lot of weird things going on. Like the comparison I keep making is like, if you were a reporter, like maybe like you covered the defense industry or like you're a war reporter and you got hyped about the new Call of Duty and you're like, check out the new Call of Duty.
That's a really good analogy.
Like, it's weird. Like why are you EA? This is a side note. As also a person who is really into video games, I forgot to mention it's actually not a triangle; it's a quadrant. Like, you're talking to a guy who really likes video games. EA is quite possibly the worst of the big studios. They microprice you to death. They're going to do that with this one too. They're going to figure out a way. Like, they haven't made this game for a decade, so they're going to steal from the Madden model with all the cards and all the stuff you've got to buy.
Sure.
And they're going to keep selling you stuff. And they don't need anyone to promote anything for them. And their licensing agreements stifle innovation in the space because nobody else can make a game because it can't compete because you don't have Wisconsin or Clemson or this or that. So I can't take it anymore. Like, the weirdest thing, I mean, they're pushing, they're pulling out all the stops because the new one yesterday was this guy who, like, when my son was like 10 years old, he used to watch this guy on YouTube who's like, hey guys, hey y'all, we're going to do college football 14 world domination. And it was this like Southern guy with this really flat, monotone voice. And it would just be him. And he'd do one of those, spinners you get on a website. And he'd be like, here's Iowa. Where's Iowa going? Iowa's going north. They're going to play Minnesota. And then like he'd sim a game on NCAA 14 and Iowa would win. And so Iowa would conquer Minnesota. And he'd do a risk game, but it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And he would do thousands of these. All of a sudden, like, they've got him promoting the game. Like, he was all over. I'm like, what? This is like if, I don't know, Troom was all of a sudden promoting something. Like, my worlds were colliding. I don't know.
Well, back in those days, I remember Henry used to watch like dudes that would play Super Mario Brothers on right, like when he was playing Super Mario Brothers, or that's just one example. You know what I mean? But so that sounds like that was one of those guys back then.
But he did these weird. It wasn't like a speed runner or one of those things. He would literally just make up a game, and then he'd sim the thing, and then he'd do like play-by-play. It was the weirdest thing you've ever seen. And then they had him playing, and he played, what's the running back for Michigan? I can't think of his name. But he
Jamie Morris?
No, the one who's coming back.
Mike Hart?
No. He's on the roster for this year. It was clearly like some kind of NIL deal, and he's playing it against this guy. And I'm like, why is this? The guy never actually played the game. He just do the spinner wheel and then edit a video. It was bizarre. Anyway, I'm getting off the point here. I just wanted to say I can't take any more. Go by the game. Have a great time. Again, all of you who are now like middle-aged, I just think it's going to be hard to find the time. But I mean, more power to you. I'm not going to have the time. But like, there's way better.
I have neither the time nor the inclination.
Right.
So, and that's just me. But yeah.
Like, if you want to, you know what? Here, yeah. To end on a positive, I'll give you something fun you can do. If you want my recommendation, I really like a lot of indie video game developers. That doesn't mean you can't play like big ones. Like, I still stand by Red Dead Redemption 2 may be the best video game ever made, just in terms of depth. And I love world building in games. And that's kind of why I always liked the college football game, because you were making a world. You were building a franchise.
Like the Dynasty mode?
Oh, yeah, that's the only way you do it. The Dynasty.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, you don't play the single. You do. I play, what my move used to be, especially in like NCAA, like say 12. You couldn't do this in 13 and 14. I would always start on a terrible team. And then what you could do is sim individual games. And I would make Wisconsin lose over and over and over and over and over until they became a 1-star team. And then I would go take the job there, because I'd always set Wisconsin as my alma mater, obviously, and then build them up from a 1-star. So I got to do like it was like Akron to greatness thing, but do it at Wisconsin, because then it had all the audio and it had all the good stuff. And then I'd get, off the forums, you'd get like all the audio packs, so you could have him. Like, I did all those weird things.
I gotcha, yeah.
But I love that world building aspect. And again, like, big games can do that. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, you can sit in your camp and just listen to them talk all day, and it's fabulous. But here's something everybody should get. Take $20 and go buy The Return of the Obra Dinn. Greatest video game ever made, as far as I'm concerned. It looks like a Mac game, like an old Mac SE game from 1992, but it has possibly the best voice acting and soundtrack of any game I've ever played, and I love it. And so there. So I'm allowed to. I'm only saying that to say, like, I'm a game nerd and I have opinions. And I know it's annoying, and you're probably going to hate me for the EA thing, but like, it's coming from a place of love for these things.
Dude, it's better than me. When I said I couldn't care less, like, I meant I literally could not care less. So like, for the folks that I know I'm in the minority for my demographic and age and whatever, but like, I have had no interest in video games since I was in high school. I like to play Super Mario Brothers with my kids when they were little. That is it. So like, one half of the show, you got it covered, man. So, for gamers, dude, talk to Rich.
Yeah, sorry.
Anyways,
it's July. Last week was like 2/3. I think it was 62%. I did measure it out. I put it in the episode title. Like, we talked about Kirk Ferentz for 2/3 of the show. This week we spent a lot of time on Adam Sandler and.
We did, yeah. We got a lot of pop culture reference.
Yeah. So sorry, everybody. We usually don't do this.
Turns out, yeah.
But I think on that note, should we get out of here?
I think so, yeah. I mean, we'll try and get something out, but as far as an official show, back with the partnership, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, I should mention, just to be clear, as I said at the top, we've already gone over 30 minutes here. This will be its own show. Rutgers will be its own show.
Yeah.
We are off next week. We're both on the move. Be back in a couple weeks. We'll have some stuff I actually have some stuff I want to do, but to do it, I got to sit down and punch away. We've got a couple emails, things like that. If you have any thoughts or questions for the show, send them in. Not if they're related to NCAA. Well, you're going to send them anyways. You can send them and tell me I'm stupid. If anyone wants to complain.
Adam Sandler and EA Sports Inbound.
Yeah, you can send them all. I'll even read them if they're creative. How about that? All right. So see everybody in a couple weeks. We'll have a Rutgers show out as well in a couple days. So you'll have a couple things to nibble on. All right. On that note, definitely. Goodbye, everybody.
All right. Till the next time.
Enjoy the conversation? Head on over to buckaroundpodcast.com to find all the ways to connect with the show, links to our Patreon page, and feeds for every major podcasting platform. We want to thank each and every one of our patrons. You make this podcast possible. This has been the Buck Around, Badger football analysis from a fan perspective.